We get locked and loaded for Loudon. NASCAR heads to New Hampshire. I break down my best bets and DFS tiers tonight on the Backroad.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checkered flag. That's all this race
All right, welcome down the Backroad, our little corner of the internet for NASCAR betting and DFS advice. I am Seth Woolcock joining you tonight, holding down the fort solo style tonight. No Elliott, no Rod, just me kicking it off as we head up north in NASCAR to New Hampshire. And just a few years ago, I don't know if I could have done this. I don't know if I could have solo hosted a show solely talking about the NASCAR Cup Series. But over the last couple of years, us here at In Between Media, we've dove deep into the NASCAR betting and DFS industry, and it's been a blast getting to know so many great people over the years. So I'm so thankful to be with you guys tonight. If you guys are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. We have content coming for you all the time over here at IBT Media between fantasy football, PGA, DFS, and betting, and then the NASCAR content as well. If you guys are in the chat tonight, help me out here. Give me a couple opinions, some picks, however you're feeling about tonight's content. Let me know. All right, let's go ahead. Let's jump into it. Before we get to Loudon, before we get to New Hampshire, we do have to look back in the rear view at what was a very exciting Atlanta race. All right. It was certainly a fun one down there in Georgia last weekend. This was a race that felt intense the entire time. It felt like when the drivers got in their cars, they knew maybe this thing isn't going to go the full distance. And yet again, our friend, Mother Nature, she showed her face here. There was shaking, there was baking, because everyone knew they only had so much time to get out in front before the rain played a factor. And it cut this one short, guys. And if you held that Brad Keselowski ticket, you were very sad. I was thinking about getting in on Brad Keselowski that morning of the race, and I didn't. Very fortunate for that, because this was one that Brad, like the Atlanta in the spring, could have walked away with, and he didn't. William Byron, he becomes the greatest hack in NASCAR history yet again. Nearly wrecked out of this one early, and then comes all the way back, wins it in the rain. But really some great runs for some drivers we don't talk about here a whole lot in NASCAR this season. Daniel Suarez, second. AJ Allmendinger, third. Michael McDowell, fourth. And JJ Yaley, this guy continues to be a fucking weapon in NASCAR DFS circles. He finishes seventh. Best career finish for him. Congratulations to him. And I think at the end of the day, this was one of those races. Yes, we cashed most of our bets, but we got very, very lucky. We're going to throw it up on the screen. This is my Betting Pros article from last week. I was on the Ricky Stenhouse plus 175 top 10. Very, very fortunate. He had just peaked into the top 10 for the first time of the day, finished ninth. Justin Haley, man, plus 240. This guy in DFS, we're going to talk about him more tonight. He's been brilliant, just brilliant. And then he comes back and has a great run, finishes just 10th, makes that ticket cash. And then shout out Cole Custer, man. Cole Custer, he comes back, first time in the Cup Series, looks really good in quite some time. And he just continues to prove why Austin Hill and this Beard Motorsports team is just a money laundering scheme, guys. It has been crazy how bad they have finished. Some of it's getting unlucky, some of it's not. But either way, really nice day for us. We had Ricky Stenhouse over Almirola. Everything hit other than our outright, guys. So we're very, very happy with it. Basically, we just recouped the money that we lost in Chicago. That's all that was. We recouped the money that the street course took away from us. So we're happy about last week. I know a lot of people aren't, and that's just how it goes sometimes. NASCAR is one of those sports like football, like golf. the weather is going to be a factor. So you have to consider that while betting, and that includes this week as well. So enough victory laps. Let's go ahead. We're going to look forward to what we can expect up in Loudon this weekend in the Horizon forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
All right, this is the Horizon forecast. Let's break down what we can expect up in New Hampshire this week, guys. This is one of those unique, shorter flat tracks. And the direct comps that we have to it, we have Phoenix, we have Richmond, we have Gateway, and then we can kind of look at some of these more niche tracks as a secondary comp as well if you would like to. I didn't pull too much of those tracks in because I really did feel like they were kind of one-off events. That includes the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro and Martinsville as well. Luckily, we do have a race here in the next gen car coming back from 2022 last year that can give us a little bit of data this year as well. And then we can also look at driver history going back to this track. This is one of them that the veterans, they just do very well. And honestly, it's one that the Chevy veterans do not do very well on. Surprisingly, Kyle Busch, he's the only Chevy driver here that has a victory to his name. No Kyle Larson, no William Byron, no Chase Elliott on that list. It's very surprising, but this is one where we've seen Toyotas do very well. Chris Bell winning last season, of course, with that late run speed. And Fords have also done pretty well over the years as well. Joey Logano, Eric Almirola, just a couple names who have won here before. And I think what this is going to come down to on Sunday, guys, is late run speed. Once again, you're going to see someone get out in front, but then what's going to happen? We're going to see someone charge from the back, just like how we saw it a couple weeks ago at Chicago. The winner of this race has come from outside the top 10, 47% of the time here. That's courtesy of J-Ski Motorsports. So appreciate them over there. So with this, we also have to consider the rain a little bit. There is going to be rain tires here because they are considering this a short track NASCAR, that is. And that concerns me a little bit, guys. Honestly, these rain races are unpredictable. We lost a ton of money at Chicago because we were on the wrong side of a pit. And hey, we came back last week and we were very fortunate that a couple drivers pitted. We cashed in top 10 tickets because of that. So I'm being cautious this week. I'm not unloading my normal bet slip. I am keeping a little bit tighter to the vest. So with that in mind, guys, let's go ahead. Let's break into the DFS segment and tell you what drivers we are looking at as we head to Loudon. All right. So usually how we do this is we do this live on the show. Elliot, Rod, and I, we kind of go through them. It was like a serpentine draft. But I'm solo this week, so I figured I'd make it easy myself. I'd lay them out ahead of time, and we can break this down. Again, these are taking our prices from Fantrax as well as DraftKings. Those are the main two platforms we're using. Fantrax, we love it from a season-long platform standpoint. And then DraftKings, that's our weekly, hey, we got to scratch that itch. So let's start with the driver's A's, guys. I want to spotlight Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick later on in the show. I will really dive in deeply in the betting segment why I'm so high on them this week. But it really comes down to history, the performance on shorter flat tracks this year and last. And then it's just like a huge relief if you can anchor yourself to a guy like Brad Keselowski at 8,600. If you pair him and Kevin Harvick in the low nines, like that is how I'm starting out. And then I can get a lot of these guys from the D tier, from the C tier, and even from the B tier in my lineup. So those are two guys I'll talk a little bit about later. Martin Truex Jr., though, he's at 11,000. It is steep. We've been riding the Truex train all season long. He's number one in speed ranking and green flag speed last year at this track. He finished fourth. However, Truex has just not been that good this season at these shorter flats as he has been in the past. So I'm a little bit conservative with Truex. I still like him. He's in the 4 slot up there. Byron's right ahead of him for me. And Byron's kind of the opposite. Byron has been stellar at these short flats, and he just doesn't have the history here. That's the issue with Byron. He's pretty much in all the advanced metrics for shorter flats this season, 2023. Byron's number one in all those categories. However, no top 10s here. Really no history. So that's what you're betting against if you are betting or playing William Byron in a lineup this week. A couple other notes to touch on in the top here. Denny Hamlin. This is a guy who, like, he's across the board consistent. 6th place finish last time here. Best average finish among active drivers here as well, going all the way back to the beginning days of his career. So if you have Denny, you have a guy who is going to be consistent in these flats, and he's probably going to get you a top 10. I just don't know if Denny can really push for the win, and that's what I'm looking for here at the top of the board. Chris Bell, I'm putting him up here because he did win last year's race. However, the underlying metrics, they don't really do it for Chris Bell. The only one that he excelled in was that late run speed, and I think that's more of a car thing than a driver skill thing. So at 11-2 for Chris Bell, I'm not really buying it. I'm not really buying Chris Bell, but I have to put him in here just because of the pedigree at this track. He also has another top 5 outside of that performance. Let me know what you guys think about the driver A's here as we approach the driver B's. Did I forget anyone? Did I snub anyone? Let me know in the chat how you guys are feeling about that driver A tier as we move to the B's. And Larson comes in here, and this is more of a sign of respect than anything for Kyle Larson. He didn't pop in my model, honestly. Came in very, 6 to 7, 8 range, right where he is in most statistics. But this is a sign of respect. But I am fading Chevys a little bit this week for the first time. So more on Chevys with Chase Elliott as well. This is a guy who he finished second here last year. So you would think based on that alone, he should be much higher in my rankings than buried in tier 2. However, he has not raced any of these shorter flats. He has not got Richmond. He has not got Phoenix. He has not got Gateway this season because he was injured, and then he got suspended for Gateway as well. So I am trepidatious on Chase Elliott. I'm trepidatious. Would it shock me if he came out and won? Absolutely not. But at the price you're paying for him, I am going to be a little cautious with him. Alex Bowman. I actually like Alex Bowman as a nice leverage play here in tier 2, guys. I don't think he's going to be very high rostered, and this was a top 10 car in total speed rankings in shorter flat tracks this season. So that's why I like Bowman. Kyle Busch, he's another one this week. It's a little bit sketchy because he has had some bad performances at shorter flat tracks this season. We tried to go all in on him at Richmond. It did not work out at all. So I am a little bit jaded with him at these tracks, but he's just so damn good right now. Outside of last week, he had 10 straight top 10s, and that was a crazy one last week. So we're not holding that against Kyle Busch. I think he belongs here. I think Suarez belongs here. He's been really good at this track throughout his career, one of his better tracks. Same with Blaney. So they're going to kind of round out this tier here. I'll talk more about Ross in the betting segment next up, but I really like Ross as well. So that's kind of tier 2. These are guys that I would love to have 1 or 2 in my lineup, but if I have to pick one here, it's going to be Ross Chastain, or I'm going to dip down and I'm going to play some leverage, I think, with Bowman and Suarez. All right, let's get to tier 3. And I'm probably going to catch a little bit of shade, I think, for having 23-11 down here. And that's okay, guys. Bring the shade. I'm completely cool with that, honestly. This is one of those tiers that with these drivers, I think the price is a little bit inflated. Bubba finished 4th here, but is he really a shorter flat track guy? I don't think so. The finishes, the driver speed this year, it doesn't tell us that he is. And Reddick, he might be, but he's so hit or miss. He's just not someone I'm willing to play on this track. I heard a lot of love for him kind of throughout the industry this week, that maybe they got that DraftKings scheme running. Maybe they're going to represent the betting industry and the NASCAR side of things, but I just can't get behind it. I think I will own very little 23-11. And if anything, it's Reddick in a couple lineups just to see what happens if he does happen to be that fast. The last one kind of here in this tier I wanted to touch on is just Chris Buescher. He's been very, very solid. 7,300 is what you're getting for him on DraftKings. He's going to be one of those, top 12, top 15 cars here. That's just who he is right now, man. I'm going to talk about him a little bit later as well, but he has just been one of the most consistent drivers in NASCAR over the last 6 weeks. Has a average finish better than 10 overall. So I like Chris Buescher a lot here this week as well. All right, this is where it gets fun, guys. We are going to the driver D's here. Let's look at Michael McDowell first up on the block, and he has been so freaking good lately. He is driving the shit out of this Front Row Motorsports Club car, man. It is looking great. 4 out of his last 5 races, he's been inside that top 10. He's cashed a lot of long shot tickets for people, and he's better here than talked about as well. And what is DraftKings pricing him as? $5,900 for Michael McDowell in that number 34 car. I'm all over that. He's going to be a big leverage play for me this week. Same with Justin Haley. And yes, I know I'm riding that Haley high. We cashed the top 10 ticket. He had a top 10 the week before, almost won Chicago. But I think Justin Haley just continues to be in optimized lineups, guys, averaging over 31 DraftKings points per game. His differential points are so crucial each and every week. He doesn't normally qualify very well. Mid-20s last week in the 30s, and he came all the way up. He is averaging more points than drivers like Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez. That is the company that, as far as DraftKings points goes, if you're playing in a league that you're mainly just looking for finishes, maybe Justin Haley isn't as sexy. But here at 5,800 for a guy averaging more points than those top drivers, Logano, Reddick, Suarez, I'm all in on the number 31 car. And I really like this tier in general, guys. Like AJ Allmendinger has continued to get better and better at ovals. Colleague in general, just really, really starting to pick it up. And then we get to the number 10 car, Aric Almirola. This guy has been my arch nemesis this season, guys. He's been so hard to bet, so hard to play DFS because he has good runs. Last week, he qualified on the pole and then just continued to back up throughout the race. Terrible finish for him. If you played him in DraftKings, it was a disaster. So I am a little bit trepidatious, but Aric Almirola, he's won this track before. I think it was all the way back in 2021. Like this guy can do it here. He is a good shorter flat track guy. So I'm interested in him. Ricky Stenhouse, we got to continue to throw him in some lineups as well, averaging over 30 DraftKings points per contest as well. And before we move out of this tier, we got to give a little bit of a spotlight. Ty Gibbs, he's been struggling. He has been struggling. He went on that big run early in the season. I think it was 4 straight top 10s, and everyone kind of got hyped behind him. The prices got inflated on Fantrax. They got inflated on DraftKings. And I'm not about it this week on Ty Gibbs, honestly. I think maybe we see some late run speed for him. Maybe he could prove me wrong. But until he proves me wrong and at least can get me a top 15 finish, like his DraftKings points, because of the differential, he's moving back a lot of the time. It's not great. It's not great. So I'm going to avoid the number 54, at least for this week. And let's just round it out kind of with the shitter tier here, guys. The driver Fs. Austin Dillon, I mean, we haven't ranked a lot of times this season. He has been terrible. But this is one of those tracks he can pull out a top 12, can pull out a top 15. He's at least interesting. However, if I'm dipping down here, how can you not go with Todd Gilliland? He's at 4,800. It makes no fucking sense at all. He's averaging over 27 points per race, and he's getting you a lot of differential as well. He's not qualifying necessarily very well. Last week he did. And he's just consistent, man. He's just so consistent. He doesn't finish in the 30s. He's going to get you a low 20s, mid 20s finish. And at 4,800, man, like you are scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I think he's really, really good leverage down there. And let's quickly shout out Rick Ware Racing, man. Congrats to them for like at least showing up with some cars. The 15 and 51 specifically this year have been very good as far as DraftKings is concerned. I always kind of get made fun of on the show because I want to talk about the guys like JJ Yaley and Cole Custer. But man, JJ Yaley shows up. He's not racing this week. However, we do have Ryan Newman back in that number 15 car, guys. And he performed pretty well earlier this season. And don't forget, 3 career wins for Ryan Newman at New Hampshire. This is his track, man. This is his track. Really cool to see him back out there in the 15. And then Cole Custer, 51. I think Cole Custer is showing us, is he a top 30 driver in this sport? Maybe not. But like top 32, like he deserves to be in the Cup Series, I think, for sure. And so Cole Custer been very, very good as of late since he's gotten back in this car. I like what he can do. I'm not personally interested in the Austin Cindrics of the world or the Eric Jones. I know Cindrics had a couple good runs lately. I'm okay missing out on that. I really am. I still think the price is too high. Corey LaJoie. LaJoie's luck ran out at Atlanta last week. We loved him going into Atlanta in the spring. I was a little bit trepidatious last week on Corey LaJoie just because of how it all kind of, he's gotten really lucky there. And the luck kind of ran out. So I'm not going to have as much LaJoie as I usually do as well. Again, if I'm dipping down here, I really think I want to go for one of those Rick Ware cars, or I want to go for the 38 or the 3 of Austin Dillon. So that's tire tiers here, guys. We're kind of moving through the show a little bit quicker than usual. Let us know in the comments who you guys think I have too high, too low. I'd love to hear from you guys as well. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe as well. We do have our betting section up next as well. We are speeding through this, so hopefully you guys are digesting this information. I'm happy to answer any questions for you as well. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get to the parking garage props. And talk about a weird week for sports betting on NASCAR. It was such a weird week. We had Barstool and I think Caesars going through a little bit of a UI update. So odds were kind of late coming out this week. We still don't have matchups in a couple places as well. It's a little bit peculiar out there. And like, again, I'm keeping it a little bit dialed back this week. I am keeping it a little bit dialed back, but there are still some very fair bets in this market. Top 10 market, a bit juiced. Outright market, though, a lot of attractive names if you don't want to bet guys like Martin Truex Jr. So let's start there. Let's start with the outrights, and we have to go with Brad Keselowski here. I know it's a very chalky pick this week, but you're going to get 20-1. And to get a guy who just almost pulled it off at Atlanta last week, he has been very good this season. And I had that feeling. I told you, I woke up on Sunday morning and most of that race, I was like almost sick to my stomach. I was like, damn, am I going to miss out on Brad Keselowski because I didn't bet him? Just kind of got busy in the morning and didn't lay a ticket down on him. But average finish of 11th on the last 3 ovals last season here, finished 7th. And that was in a car and on a team that was doing very, very poorly at that time as well. So I really like Brad. The only issue that I'm only going to lay a half a unit down on him at this price is he didn't have the speed ranking I wanted. 15th last season. He kind of outperformed his expectation, if you would. However, he's been great at Phoenix, 8th in speed ranking there. Richmond, same story, different track, 9th in speed ranking there. Those are courtesy of iFantasy Race, of course. Want to give a shout out to Ryan. He does a great job over there. But he was just terrible at Gateway. Gateway was a disaster for him, and that's kind of the issue with betting Brad Keselowski sometimes. We've tried to do it. I tried to do it at the dirt race. He was great at the dirt race the season before, and he burned us. So just be cautious with that. I like this outright. It's for the number and the driver you're getting. I like him a lot, but you do have to be a little bit cautious with it. All right, and let's move to another Ford. We're back on the Ford train this week again, guys. And it's Kevin Harvick. What more can you say for this guy? He's going off at 10-1 at Barstool and a couple of other places as well, Caesars. Second best average speed ranking across shorter flats this season. 5th. That's how quick he's been at all these tracks. He finished 5th here last season, 4th in the total speed rankings as well, and green flag speed. I think Kevin Harvick is very live to win. We're going to get some first-time winners here, I think, over the next couple weeks. The pressure is mounting for guys like Harvick, like Keselowski, even more so for the Chase Elliott's and the Alex Bowmans of the world who are on the outside looking in at that playoff bubble. But I really like Brad. I really like what Harvick can do here. And I think these are two guys who have this track circled. I mean, between the two of them, they've won a lot of races here. And I think this is a chance to get one. Cash in on Harvick. We've chased it at Phoenix. We got burned late by a caution at Phoenix. We should have cashed that one. And Brad, we've gotten burned the last couple of weeks as well. So let's get back in on these veterans. Let's ride those. And I do want to point out something as well. I usually very much try to stay away from the odds boost that places like Caesars throw out for NASCAR, because to me, they're always a trap. They sound good, but they're usually not. However, our friends at Caesars have given us a beauty this week. Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski, each to finish in the top 10 plus 450. 4.5-1, guys. I think this is a fucking steal. I think whoever put this one out is going to get fired. I think this is a slam dunk. A lot of times these both in the top 10 bets can be a little tricky, but this isn't a track we see a ton of cautions at usually. So I think it's going to be kind of a straightforward race. The rain, that's going to be a little bit of an X factor here, but they're both my outright picks. And I can get my two favorite picks for plus 450. And a lot of these books have Brad and Harvick at minus 200 or lower odds to crash in on a top 10. So I really, really like them to get here, get a top 10. And then I'm hedging myself a little bit too if one of them don't win the race. I can get that 4.5 to 1. I can walk away smiling either way. Last place I want to go here, I want to shift to the prop market in that placement props. And I want to talk about Ross Chastain. First of all, congrats, man. I am so happy. He is the Busch Light driver. The worst kept secret in NASCAR. Bob Parker said that on Twitter. But man, like this is the guy. He's good for NASCAR. He's good for Busch Light. Like this is a guy we need to get behind. I know he can wreck your favorite drivers and ruin some tickets here and there, but Ross, congratulations. I think that's going to bring a little momentum to the track this week. And he's going off minus 110 at Barstool for a top 10. Ooh, I think that's a little bit of a misprice as well. I think that's a big misprice when you got a guy like William Byron, much more in that 150 range, minus 160. Ross here, I think I would even possibly consider top Chevy for him. Top 10 in both season shorter flat tracks and total speed rankings here last season. He finished 8th here. Also finished 3rd at our comp track of Richmond as well. And yes, Phoenix, not so great for Ross. Gateway, not so great for the number 1 car either. However, qualified top 10 in both of those, just kind of got into some trouble because he did have top 11 in those total speed rankings from iFantasy Race once again. So Ross, much better than what the books are giving him credit for this week. That's why I really like him in DFS this week as well. I think people are going to look at that Richmond finish and they're going to say, oh, okay, he was pretty good. And then they're going to look at the Phoenix and the Gateway and they're going to get dissuaded a little bit. But dig deeper. Dig deeper. We need these advanced metrics to tell us the whole story, paint the full picture. So that's why I appreciate guys like iFantasy Race and Win the Race who give us so many of these different advanced metrics. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into the specials market and the head-to-head market. A couple ones I want to shout out quickly here. Suarez, I talked about him earlier. I like Suarez. Finished 9th here last season, and he's going up against Bubba Wallace at plus money. Plus 120 at Caesars. This is the one I heard shout out yesterday. I think Full Tank with Phil was on this, as well as Mark Harris from Skybox NASCAR and the Lane Coin podcast. And I think this is a really brilliant one. Yes, Bubba Wallace, he showed us a lot of speed. He had one of his best career finishes. I tried to fade him last season at this track, stacked a bunch of matchups against him. It did not work. However, his running position at these tracks, these shorter flat tracks, have not been very good this season. So give me some Suarez over Bubba plus 120. Suarez has been much hotter lately in general as well. And then my favorite matchup of the week, I'm going to lay the juice. Chris Buescher, the number 17 car, minus 135 versus Ryan Preece. And I like Buescher. I honestly do like Buescher. We know Brad Keselowski tested this track earlier this year as well to kind of feel out this new package, the new tires on it. And I think he's going to translate a little bit that knowledge over to Chris Buescher. And this isn't Chris Buescher's best track. However, he's been very, very consistent. Finished 17th here last season, 16th in shorter flat speed rankings this season as well. So Chris Buescher, very, very solid. And what I love is just the consistency as of late. Average finish over the last 7 races for Buescher. And we're talking super speedways. We're talking flat tracks. We are talking street races. Chris Buescher, 9.7 average finish. So I'm fine with laying the juice against him, against Ryan Preece over here on Caesars. Ryan Preece didn't race here last year. Ryan Preece is one of the only full-time drivers without a fucking top 10 this year. Ryan Preece, I love Ryan Preece. Like I've always tried to been like, oh, this is a guy who should get a top ride. However, you don't have a top 10. And you're a full-time NASCAR driver in the Cup Series. You want to know the other drivers that don't have a top 10 as a full-time driver in the Cup Series? Noah Gragson and Ty Dillon. That is the company Ryan Preece is in. Has he been better at the shorter flat tracks? Finish-wise, yes. He had a 12th at Phoenix. He's been better than a lot of places. However, 22nd in total speed rankings at these shorter flats. He's much more outperforming the equipment than anything. I don't trust Ryan Preece as far as I can throw him this week. If you want to lay something down, maybe in the qualifying market, think maybe he gets hot here. I could see that. Take a long shot there. However, he's just going to back it up. That's what Ryan Preece does. He backs it up, man. So I am not interested in anything that involves me taking Ryan Preece. I'm just going to fade him instead here. Minus 135 over on Caesars. So to recap those two, I think they'd be a nice little parlay as well. Suarez over Bubba, plus 120. Buescher over Priest, minus 135. And then we've also already touched on Harvick outright. We like Brad outright. It's 20-1 on Brad, 10-1 on Harvick. And let's go ahead. Let's round this out. We have the Ross top 10 as well, minus 110. But let's round this out with my favorite special of the week. This will be the last bet of the week. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. I know I'm not as cool as I normally am with Rod here and Elliot and all our amazing guests we normally have. But, what was up for the challenge this week? Wanted to have a solo pod, so we did it. But let's give you a little special one for hanging out to the very end. Winning car number, under 10.5 number. That is plus 175 at Caesars. And these are really fun ones to bet. You can kind of hedge yourself a little bit. And if with this bet, we are looking for one of the following drivers to win. And we've talked about a lot of them tonight already. Ross Chastain, love him this week. Austin Dillon, God forbid, I don't think Austin Dillon's going to win, but I do like him more than usual. Kevin Harvick, though, the number 4 car. We love that. Number 5 car, Kyle Larson. He's always live to win on these types of shorter, more compact, less bullshit in the way tracks. Brad Keselowski, you're getting him as well. And Kyle Busch, he's already won 3 times this year. And Eric Almirola, too. He does have a win here. We have to mention him. So, those are, I think one of those drivers are going to win. If I had to lay, I was surprised plus 175 was the number. I thought it'd be closer to plus 120, even closer to even with how much of favorites I feel like those guys should be in a lot of people's eyes. However, the books love Martin Truex Jr. this week. They love guys like that. They love Christopher Bell. So I think that's what you're kind of betting against if you're taking this bet. If you don't like that one, I do have a little bit safer one. We can add Denny to that. We can add Blaney. Winning car number under 12.5 at Caesar Sportsbooks. This is minus 125. Very interesting as well here. Denny, we talked about earlier in the show, man. He's super consistent at the shorter flats and at this New Hampshire Speedway as well. And Blaney, same type of deal. So if you like those guys a little bit more, I hedged myself. I took them both. I couldn't help it. So I hedged myself a little bit just in case Denny or Blaney were to win that. So yeah, guys, these are my betting cards for the week. I'll have an article out at Betting Pros tomorrow. We'll be back next week, though. We'll have the full cast back with us. We'll have Rod. We'll have Elliot. We're also going to Pocono, so we're going to have a lot of bonus content coming for you. But I really, really appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. If you guys are watching the recording and made it this far, thank you so much. This industry is fucking awesome. The fact that I get to do this for so much part of my day is amazing. And it's because of people like you hitting that like button on YouTube, hitting that subscribe button, leaving a comment for us. That is the stuff that helps us. So thank you guys so much. We hope we catch some winners for you this week. If you have any questions, you can find me on Twitter at between_SethFF. And until next time, guys, keep it in between.